Mike Sierra 1
can't handle the truth.
You're a cheat and a swindler. That's what you are. How can you do a thing like this?
I am authorized to assure you these rumors are based on hysteria and are absolutely false. I repeat, these rumors are absolutely false.
However, it's explained that Disney currently has a plan to fire Kathleen Kennedy sometime during this year of 2020, where it's noted that Disney is down to 3 different candidates that will replace Kennedy and that they are in the process of choosing who will be the one to take over Kennedy's role as head of Lucasfilm. Now, Disney is said to have a plan to fire Kathleen Kennedy lightly, where it won't be publicly revealed that she is getting let go, and that it will be demonstrated that she is stepping down. Though ironically, Kennedy also wants to leave Lucasfilm since she no longer has creative control over the existing Star Wars projects in the early development phase. By Q3 of 2020, Disney plans to make a final decision out of the three candidates of who will replace Kennedy sometime in Q4 of 2020 that will go into full effect in early 2021 next year once the new year begins. Now, it's noted that currently the new Disney CEO is cleaning up house over at Lucasfilm by bringing in new creators for the future of Star Wars, where it's explained that Lucasfilm is getting ready to replace Kathleen Kennedy with a brand new president for the company by the new Disney CEO Bob Chapek, who is said to now have an actual candidate for the new president of Lucasfilm. Now, it's noted that this plan is set to go into effect sometime in late 2020, and that Kathleen Kennedy has actually met with Bob Chapek about who will be replacing her as the head of Lucasfilm. Now, it's noted that this plan by Disney is to ensure that the Star Wars brand can live on to be very successful and to be the best it can be without Kathleen Kennedy's poor leadership skills. This is said to also be in response to the actual poor box office results from The Rise of Skywalker and how the movie did not make anywhere near as much as The Last Jedi's, and that by halting Kathleen Kennedy's power over creative choices as the first step, the next step is by replacing her with a new candidate that was actually chosen by Disney's Bob Chapek that will change the Star Wars brand as we know it. Now, it's explained that behind the scenes, many changes have been made over at Lucasfilm, where it's noted that the Disney CEO, Bob Chapek, has come to a decision where he is going to have the ability to fire Kathleen Kennedy from Lucasfilm earlier than her contract expires. It's said that Chapek already has his lineup of candidates for the new president of Lucasfilm, and that even though Kathleen Kennedy is willing to leave Lucasfilm very soon, Chapek is described to have a plan to fire her very soon, later this year, that will go into full effect sometime next year. It's said that Kathleen Kennedy has known that this was coming and in the talks for a while now, and that her stepping down voluntarily was going to be her cover-up story as to why she was leaving Lucasfilm. Now, though Chapek is not firing Kennedy this instant, the plan is to let her go later this year in 2020. That will go into full effect sometime in 2021, with George Lucas taking over temporarily on the business end of things for the Star Wars franchise before Chapek chooses his permanent solution. It's explained that as of right now, Bob Chapek is developing a plan for George Lucas to replace Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy temporarily for the beginning of 2021 to handle what is being described as the first two phases of the Star Wars universe that will span the entire decade of the 2020s. Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy is said to be leaving Star Wars and Lucasfilm sometime in 2021 next year, and that a lot of this has to do with Disney CEO Bob Chapek pushing for Kennedy to leave earlier than expected, and that she is essentially fired from the Star Wars franchise, and that this will go into full effect next year. Creator George Lucas is said to be set to take over Lucasfilm temporarily before the permanent solution will be applied by Bob Chapek, where he still has 3 permanent candidates to take over the role as president. So let's tap into this for just a second. In case you guys did not know about this massive change that's happening right now, is that Bob Chapek has currently 3 candidates, one of which is going to be Jon Favreau for the permanent solution of who's going to become the official president of Lucasfilm after Kathleen Kennedy leaves. However, in a recent interview with a Disney spokesperson, the spokesperson was eventually questioned about Kathleen Kennedy getting fired from Lucasfilm. Now, at one point in time, the Disney spokesperson was able to state that I feel that this is a very confrontational question and that it is a bit of an unprofessional one to ask about Miss Kennedy. However, it is something that many of those associated with Disney have been talking about for the past number of weeks now. The spokesperson also reveals that we know that a large portion of the fan base does not support Kathleen Kennedy and her impact on the Star Wars brand, and that it does stand for her. However, the spokesperson eventually unveiled that the board members did in fact have talks about finding a new replacement for Kathleen Kennedy in the near future, as Mr. Chapek suggested. However, those conversations won't be more serious until the fall or early 2022. Meanwhile, behind the scenes and separate from all of this, it's described that Disney is planning to actually get rid of Kathleen Kennedy by sometime in 2022 in order to focus on creating better Star Wars material. However, one key plan that Disney CEO Bob Chapek has in store involves Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy and what they are up to in order to replace her as the president of Lucasfilm. Now, further, it's described that Bob Chapek is already well into the talks with the higher-ups over at Disney in order to replace Kathleen Kennedy with a new president to take over Lucasfilm by the end of this year. Initially, Chapek wanted to do this in 2021, however got held up with no candidates ready to take on the role as president, which forced Disney to keep Kennedy on for quite some time. Filioni working on multiple Star Wars TV shows, be it, of course, the Ahsoka series, The Mandalorian Season 3, The Book of Boba Fett, and even, yes, the beginning stages of Mando Season 4, that is now being put into the works in pre-production. In a brand new interview with a Lucasfilm spokesperson, she was questioned about Gina Carano's return in The Mandalorian Season 3, since both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have been working hard to bring her back into the series. Now, the Lucasfilm spokesperson went on to explain that though we understand that there are fans of the character and the actress, we have made the final decision to not bring her back for The Mandalorian Season 3 for a number of reasons. This, in addition, the spokesperson revealed that Jon and Dave, however, are still in the talks with Ms. Carano on a return for another Star Wars series for Disney+. However, I cannot say anything further at this time. Further, this was said to actually have been a mixture of reasons. Number one is that filming is already beginning to start this month, and that Lucasfilm could not afford to delay the process of the show that would have had a massive impact on production, including tons of rewrites for the character. However, both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have had many conversations with Gina, and that there is also good news that comes out of all of this to all. And that this is that Gina is actually said to be agreeing to return for Mando Season 4, as well as the higher-ups over at Disney in 2023. However, this would mean that fans would not be able to see Gina Carano for a very long time in the Star Wars universe. In a recent interview with a Lucasfilm spokesperson when questioned about actress Gina Carano, in a recent interview with actor Hayden Christensen. Now, in a recent interview, Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy was able to respond to the Star Wars fandom. In a recent interview, it's described that Disney CEO Bob Chapek was able to respond to Star Wars fans. It's explained that recently creator Jon Favreau took part in an interview. It's described, however, that in a recent interview, Hayden Christensen was able to reveal some exciting details about his involvement with Star Wars. It's described, however, that in a recent interview, actor Mark Hamill, in a recent interview at one point in time, Dave Filoni teased. It's described, however, that in a recent interview with Disney CEO Bob Chapek, he was able to speak on behalf of what George Lucas had to reveal for the character of Grogu. It's described that recently actress Rosario Dawson took part in an interview. It's described, however, that in a recent interview, Jon Favreau was questioned about the character of Grogu and Ahsoka Tano. However, during and after the premiere for The Rise of Skywalker, many interviews were given to the creators and actors of the sequel trilogy films. However, during and after the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker, many interviews were given to the creators and actors of the sequel trilogy. However, during and after the premiere for The Rise of Skywalker, many interviews were given to many of the creators of the sequel trilogy, as well as many of the actors. At one point in time, Daisy Ridley was interviewed about The Rise of Skywalker, where she was questioned about Kathleen Kennedy's leadership. However, it's noted that after the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker, when many interviews were given to the creators of the sequel trilogy, as well as the actors, when Adam Driver was interviewed well after the premiere, he was questioned about Kathleen Kennedy's leadership. Now, during and after the premiere for The Rise of Skywalker, many interviews were given to the creators of the sequel trilogy, as well as the actors. At one point in time, actor John Boyega was questioned about Kathleen Kennedy's leadership. However, it's noted that during and after the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker, many interviews were given to the creators of the film, including Chris Terrio, the co-writer of Episode 9, who worked closely with Kathleen Kennedy on set. Now, it's noted that during and after The Rise of Skywalker premiere, many interviews were given to the actors and creators of the sequel trilogy, where at one point in time, actor Harrison Ford was questioned about the sequels sometime after the premiere of Episode 9. However, during and after the premiere for The Rise of Skywalker, actor Harrison Ford got a chance to discuss everything related to Disney Star Wars and how they handled the sequel trilogy movies. However, in a recent interview, Disney CEO Bob Chapek was able to speak on behalf of George Lucas of how he felt with the return of Luke Skywalker in Mando Season 2, explaining Now, Gina Carano, alright, surprisingly, is also set to unveil new secrets of her firing this March, in mid-March specifically, to a brand new interview, of course, with a yet-to-be-announced media outlet. Additionally, on top of this, also, it's noted that Gina Carano is set to expose more of the truth about Lucasfilm, and that this time it will have to do with what Gina learned when she first got hired by Jon Favreau and met the Lucasfilm team. Gina is set to come back to expose more of the truth by the end of this month, and that also writer Leslie Headland is another Lucasfilm employee that celebrated Carano's firing. Carano is set to reveal more about Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy as a leader this April in a brand new interview that was initially planned for the end of March. Honestly, you know, in that very long and lengthy interview with Ben Shapiro, she unveiled a lot just in that one interview, and whoever she's going on board with next month into June as well, you know, May into June, it's going to be interesting to see who she's going to have the interview with, if it's going to be on a major news outlet on television, or if it's going to be more around the lines of something like on Spotify/YouTube, like a Joe Rogan type of thing going on. However, in a recent interview, Gina Carano went on to respond to her views of coming back to Star Wars. Basically, the deal was made between Jon, Dave, and the higher-ups over at Disney of bringing back Carano. That's pretty much set in place and being finalized, and will be finalized by this September. There is going to be a finalization of this plan for Gina Carano to come back by the end of August, specifically toward, of course, you know, the August 20s, right around that time frame. We do know that Jon and Dave had their final meeting with Disney back in May, all right, late May, with, of course, the higher-ups over at Disney on Gina Carano's return and exactly how they could go about doing that. We discussed this before in the past, that by the end of August, everything's going to be finalized, and then it's all going to come down to Gina Carano making that ultimate decision by, of course, this upcoming September. In the meantime, separately from all of this, Gina Carano is said to be taking part in a major talk show by this September that will reveal more about what happened between herself and Lucasfilm. It's unclear if this will be televised or something of the likes of a podcast, like Joe Rogan, for example. Now, in addition to this, Gina Carano is set to unveil more about her experience with Lucasfilm by the end of February on a major show where she will have a special interview where it's unclear who this will be at this time. To be honest, I think it could be Joe Rogan, it could be anybody around those lines. But the thing about Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now May 24th of 2020. I hope you're all having a happy Memorial Day weekend. And in case you guys have not been in the loop or have been filled in, if you guys have seen my YouTube story, we were actually supposed to do a live stream with some exciting people last night. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties on YouTube's end with server issues and a bug of some sorts, we didn't really get to that, and we also planned to do it earlier this morning, which also failed, and other YouTubers out there seem to also be having problems with live streaming. So I just wanted to personally apologize, and I'm very sorry about the inconvenience, and we will be getting to that and rescheduling the live stream. And in case you guys have no idea what it's going to be about, essentially we're going to have some exciting people on board of this live stream in the coming weeks. We have to actually replan all of this and reschedule it. Now, this had forced Leslie Headland to take a step back and rewrite many scenes for the role of Maeve in the new Star Wars TV series. As of now, Larson is no longer a main character in the new show that takes place during the end of the High Republic era, which is roughly 70 years to 80 years before Episode 1. Now, Larson recently had many of her scenes deleted from the scripts of the first few episodes, and now won't be showing up until midway through the new TV show. This has caused much frustration for Larson, as she originally was going to be the very main character of the series, and is now being reduced to just a side character for the show.